Is everything all?
We're going to get started here real quick. Rich is going to do roll call as Desiree's not here, so.
Oh, that, yeah.
Go ahead.
That's me? Oh.
It's all you now.
All right, Duchess, Mike Witkowski.
Here.
Violante.
Here.
Joan Seabird.
Here.
Kathy Tegmere. Jennifer Manzi. Kathy Grenier. Marion Baker. Let me get caught up with my checks. Dee Segendorf. Oh, okay. Orange County. Joanne Cheney.
Here.
Ben Conks.
Here.
Rebecca Stage. Andy Lamarca.
Here.
Kelly Malkin.
Here.
Israel Knobloch.
Yeah.
Frank Casante. Dawn Marshall. Putnam. Robert Cuomo.
Here.
David Jacobson.
Here.
Matthew Bundy. And 1, 2, 3 open. It's Rockland. Kitty Koch. Kim Lippis. Nick Rozecki. Mike Murphy.
Yep.
Desiree Leon. Neil Dahan. Bernice Goretti. Ron Levy. Sullivan County. Albie Bachman.
Here.
Gray Tavermina.
Here.
Neil Medog. Heidi Stack.
Here.
Korea Jara. Matt Goldsmith.
Here.
Ulster County, myself, Gary Horowitz. Rich Mollary. Kelly Nelson.
Here.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Is that a quorum?
We have a quorum.
No, he's not on. I know him.
Okay, just for purposes of the recording, anybody that speaks in the back, just please stand up and state your name so that we make sure we get it in the record. Minutes of the previous meeting, they were distributed. Any corrections? Okay, can I have a motion on the minutes? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried? Okay, President's report, got a few letters. From the Orange County EMS Council, Andy Lamarca will remain as delegate for Orange County for another term. Kelly McEwen signed that. Okay, it's a letter from Greg Tavermina wanting to continue as the chair of the Bylaws Committee,
Policies and procedures.
Policies and Procedures.
Close enough. Yeah.
That's a good try.
Both same thing.
You get both now.
That's a good idea.
Thanks, Andy. No problem.
Kim would like to continue as the Remsco representative as well as chair of the Transportation Committee. And that is all I have. We do have openings on committees. At one time, and it's going back some period, there used to be a requirement being on the council that you're active as participants in the council and being part of the chair of committees, not necessarily the chairs of the committees, but being part of the committees. So getting back to the spirit of that requirement, I guess, we'd like to, let everybody know that there are several committees that need assistance and need participation on them. So if you can help out in any way, shape, or form, we would like to have that. Otherwise, I'm going to be calling you up and asking you to participate in specific committees that we need some assistance with. So, you know, if you're willing to help out anywhere, please let us know. Another topic, and it's a big topic, and some people in this room have been dealing with it for many weeks, but obviously in the news, we have the Ebola crisis going on, and we've been Ebola'd out, many of us for the past couple of weeks, and then some of us for the past day have been nothing but it. So, what I'm going to do is, I'm by far not the person that's the expert on this here, so I'm going to have Dr. Stutz start the conversation. There's been several people on the council here that have been participating on the different committees that we've been addressing issues from protocols to system responses and et cetera. And we basically want everybody to understand that we are working from a regional perspective as well as with the county coordinators of each of the counties to come up with a good system plan to be able to respond in the event that this should, you know, rear its head up here in the Hudson Valley.
Actually, I'm going to ask Bill if he would lead the discussion, because
There we
he's
go.
been in much
More contact
more
with them.
involved than I from the very beginning.
Sure.
I tried to give it off.
We have been working very closely with the counties to try to at least point everybody in the right direction. And one of the things that, as a region and as a group of counties, we run into issues with is that we can't really dictate to a county what they can do and what they can't do. So what we have done is talked with some of the counties, and Dutchess was a lead in this, where they have put together a bunch of protocols and a bunch of things that they want to do that they think would be really good to handle in an Ebola case if it does exist in their area. And their county commissioner, Department of Health commissioner, is contacting other Department of Health commissioners and trying to put the 6 counties commissioners together to try to make an approach to the state Department of Health commissioners to talk to them. Now, what that means is they've been having conference calls, we've been having conference calls, and everybody's updating each other back and forth. But we here, as the council, are gonna look at it from the protocol, from the treatment of the patient, and from the protection of the provider, because that's really what our mainstay is. They're gonna look at it from an operational point to find out who should respond, when they should respond, and if they need, who they need there at the scene, and how they control that scene. Right? We've worked today, we went through and have a pretty good draft of a protocol that will be coming out hopefully by Friday, that will say, you know, you have to have your PPE on when you go into the call. It will rely a lot on our dispatch, so if anybody is involved in dispatch, please work with them and try to make sure that dispatch is telling you if you have a case where it could be an Ebola exposure. Make sure that your crews are going in with the PPE that's required for that, and make sure that they're reporting it to the right people. And if it is, make sure that your local health department is aware of it, and that they have a response team that will be working with you or coming to you, depending on what the county decision is on that. From a county, anybody want to speak on the county level? Dave, you want to talk on that, what you guys are doing, or?
You're doing such a great job, Bill.
This is getting bigger and bigger.
At the Ulster County, and it's pretty much the same with Dutchess, we've been meeting, or I've been meeting with the Commissioner of Health and Ulster County OEM. We instituted at our dispatch center, we'll ask the questions, and when they get dispatched, if the requester has any of the indications, you will be advised to wear BSI. Dr. Smith has reached out to Dr. Reber, is it?
Correct.
Dr. Reber, and they are working together to develop this 6-county resource, and moving forward, some of the things that we're looking at, you know, again, is operations level, So hopefully we'll get them worked out. The conference calls today with the state, with CDC. Folks, you gotta go on to the CDC website and Ebola and public health, was it PHE? The public health .gov website is I think it's PHE, right? I got it written right down here. PHE.gov/Ebola, and that's got a lot of information on it, and it should be the most current. There's still a lot of discussion on what the right PPE to wear. I heard something about Tyvek back here, but yeah, right now, Tyvek is okay. Tychem gives you another level of protection. For some reason, they're saying that you shouldn't wear.
Should or shouldn't?
Should not wear any of the things with hoods on it, because they feel that once you get the mask on and the visor, that it's going to block your vision with a hood on. So that type of stuff. Other folks are going with PAPRs, powered air purifying respirators, and that does give you a very higher level of protection. But that device is $1,000. Right? It's a power pack that sits on your hip. The benefit of PAPRs is you do not have to be fit tested. Where the other N95s, you have to have a fit test. And if you go with the APR, the air purifying respirator, that's the full mask, same thing. You have to be fit tested for that. So it's a toss-up which way you go.
I think to put in perspective, it is based upon your level of involvement. Most of EMS will not be involved in the transport of these patients. It'll be to hold the line at the scene, limit contamination, stay away from the patient 3 to 6 feet. We'll do the questioning, the screening, and then buy some time to call the county health department and or a contact person at the county level. They may decide to contact CDC and decide if indeed the patient's to be housed where they are, if they're to be transported to a hospital, and if there's a transport to a hospital, if a special unit will come in to do that. And whether or not they'll stay local or go to the 5 facilities in New York City that are designated to treat Ebola patients. So I wouldn't, everybody run out by poppers, poppers. I've done it all day. Usually the N95 with limited contact is going to be fine with other precautions. Read it in the standard. We're, for instance, going to go with the PAPRs if we have our special vehicle, because they will probably be with a patient for like 2.5 hours. They're going to need the, powered air packs. So don't get in a panic. However, if you haven't ordered supplies, you're going to find that there probably are none. So we're relying heavily on each of the counties to cut loose some stock to the hands-on providers that are going to be doing some of the work.
The region and the, today on the conference call with the county coordinators, is going to be drafting a letter to the state health department, and then the county coordinators are going to sign on to that letter, basically putting this back up to the state health department and saying, we have a shortage of this equipment. It is our understanding the government has shut the vendors down and is not releasing the equipment to us to get. So therefore, you need to supply us with the equipment and put it back on them. So we are going to be drafting that letter from the regional perspective, as well as the county coordinators are going to be following that up, I believe, with their meetings that they have this weekend as well with the state health department. So.
We're going to we're going to bring it up at the county coordinators meeting at Vital Signs, but the EMS coordinators can't request the equipment. We have to go to our county OEM and say, hey, we've got this issue. You've got to take it up through the food chain and see if they can get us stuff through the state.
Yeah, apparently the state has a stockpile or supposedly has a stockpile of stuff, so it's...
Andy, in reference to what you said about get to a scene, you have a high suspicion, Does every county health department have an access number, 24/7, where
Well,
people can
well, we
reach to
understood
get
they did. You know, whether or not it's manned, because some counties, I think Dutchess, don't we speak for Dutchess, but their health department will continue the screening, you know, even from a 911 center, if there's more questions to be asked, they'll have a 24-hour day, right? But
Correct.
others may not have that, but we have tried to unite all the EMS coordinators and all the, you know, county health departments, hopefully to kind of standardize their approach so that there will be those resources when we need them. And if not, maybe they can share the phone number.
No, I know.
Dutchess have an 800 one?
I asked if it was somebody's cell. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
exactly. At the very least, this has been a very eye-opening experience for agencies to realize how inadequate their infection control plans, equipment, supplies, and training are, and they need to be ramped up at the very least for any other infection control, and that's been a big eye-opener for a lot of people too.
Well, a common theme at the discussion this afternoon on the phone was the perception that many first responder and BOS agencies do not have adequate PPE.
They do not have bloodborne pathogen or airborne pathogen equipment on their units. And that's, doing a survey, talking to the different agencies that I deal with, they wanna know who's gonna buy it, who's providing the training, but bloodborne pathogens, airborne pathogen training, you should have that.
Andy?
The only thing, I'll cover two things at once here. The only thing I would take exception to is that many of the services we know, both BLS and ALS, do indeed have the equipment aboard for bloodborne pathogens. The issue is they have not used it, and and they have the plans, have not used the plans. I know the present company included, probably polled some of our people when's the last time you used your Tyvek, so it is there. They almost all have the capacity to do the standoff, screening. I would also caution in the letter that goes out, do not make it sound like everyone doesn't have that, because we have services that probably are complete with, level A stuff, Pappers, did I get it right? Not poppers. Those are the jalapeno things, right? All right, but they might have poppers, so just don't want to, somebody come back at us and say, well, these services don't have a problem, because we know they have it. The last thing too is that some of the counties are going to try to get more supplies in. And I think it was Mr. Cherry from Orange County who did bring up a point. I don't think Dana really responded to it directly, but the issue is that trying to approach the federal government for funds are bioterrorism. This is not bioterrorism. This is kind of like plague sort of side of the house. They may not release funds for that. So I think everybody should probably be aware your investment will probably not be returned. We're going to do it for public health, but if you're sitting there saying, well, I can buy this stuff and hopefully wait the 90 days to get the money from the feds, no coming.
But I think the important thing to bring back to our cores and to our people that are working there is what Dave was saying, are the basics. Let's go back to basics, make sure we have our standard PPE in place, and that our people know how to use it. Because it's been years since people put that stuff on. And take a look and see what stock you do have, and make sure that you have enough in a rig to, if you have two people the same size, make sure that, one's not wearing a small one and one's wearing a tremendous one, so just take a look at your inventory, take stock of what you have so that you know what the people can be protected.
And please respond to your county coordinators when they're asking the questions, because that's gonna be the largest thing. If they're asking the question, they're being asked for the question, so they're not gonna be able to get access to supplies if they don't know that the supplies are needed. So it's important that you relay that information back to them.
I'd like to address another aspect of the discussions today that came up. And this is based on Dr. Carrie Reber, who's the Dutchess County Health Commissioner. And she had thrown out a proposal, and I'm not exactly sure who it went to initially, who in the state or EMS it went to. But basically, her concept was that there should be strike teams, response teams, to handle these calls. Given the shortage of equipment, the lack of training, the lack of experience, and the cost involved to get everybody up to par in a very short time, and the huge number of people that need to be trained, there was something very attractive about her concept of having, she referred to it as a strike team, maybe a response team is best, that would be there'd be various teams situated throughout the region. And those would be the teams that would respond when E911 identified a potential case or EMS identified a potential case. To make sure that equipment was there, personnel were there, the training had been done, and there was a plan of action that everybody understood. At this point now, the information is not disseminated. It's not extensively known throughout the BOS and AOS communities either, how to respond to this. And she's put together a training program. I believe, is that correct, Dave?
Yes.
She has a training program that that people in Dutchess have been exposed to,
Correct.
that could be extended, and having a centralized response team. I don't mean centralized that there'd be one, but there'd be a variety of these response teams through the region that could respond to these emergencies, to these calls, who had the expert training and equipment.
And I believe that's what Andy was referring to in a similar fashion with it coming. But I think as the agencies that are here and the agencies that are out on the street initially, they might be walking into that situation right from the street and they have to be aware of it.
Right.
They might be walking into a situation that the dispatch didn't pick it up, or the right questions weren't asked, or the right answers weren't given because of fear of EMS not responding. So I think what we have to do here is make sure that everybody is aware of it, and as they walk into those scenes, they know that they stop, they look, they evaluate, and if it's a situation where they feel that they need their personal protection equipment, they go out and they get it. They come back in, and then they deal with the patient as best as they can. They call the right people, and they get the help that they need. And I really think that's what the region's looking to do.
I think a lot of the concept that Dutchess had is good. I know Mike is already using it. They're using it in Rockland County. We'll be using it in Orange. The problem we have is that, we cannot, the public health emergency doesn't extend the privileges of the commissioners to mandate certain things across, the geographic lines. Doesn't affect ambulance service certificate. So there are some nuances there we have to watch for. Also, some aspects we cannot do anything, and nothing that this region puts out can in any way controvert the commissioner's orders. Dr. Reber is leading, an effort to try to get the commissioner to reconsider reasonable time, training time and equipment issues. But if anybody looks at it and says, we can't do this or shouldn't do this, commissioner's orders stand. They have to be implemented to the best of your ability. The strike team concept is good. Maybe response team is better. We'll participate in different counties, but I'm going to tell you right now, my recommendation is that we not mix group. I have to be responsible for training up my team, and the liability of that team functioning as an integral unit is what I have to worry about. If I have someone who seems to be equally trained but on my unit, and we have a miscue with this, it could be tragic. So, I think that conceptually, maybe agency-sponsored response units, especially trained, make perfect sense. And the plan that Dutchess has, not all elements might work in other counties, but it could be a template, certainly. I think, but,
It's definitely a good starting point.
yeah.
So, and again, the big thing is just be aware, and that's the key on it, is make sure your people are aware and have a high level of suspicion. And that's the most that you can take from it. And again, we'll keep you guys updated by REMAC advisories, and as things progress, your county coordinators will be sending out information down from the county at the county level, because again, this is all going to probably propagate from the county level. Maybe some of it will come out of the state, but it'll definitely be driven at the county level. So keep an ear open for it. Anybody else have anything else on that? That's a week's worth of synopsis in 10 minutes, so that's good. Okay, moving on, treasurer's report.
Okay, the manager's not here today. He asked me to give the treasurer's report. In our council account, we have $40,666. In our payroll account, we've got $53,581. In our program agency, we have $54,989. At this point in time, the state is paid up on everything that they owe us for any of our deliverables that we sent out and all our educational efforts. We do have a voucher that we sent in this week. We're gonna send it, and that will be the only thing that is outstanding. We will be getting ready for our auditors very shortly.
For a what, audit?
Audit. Mhm. That's it. If anybody needs details on the treasurer's report, you can just let me know, or let Matt know.
Okay, I have a motion on treasury report,
So move.
have a second, all in favor, opposed, carried. Motion to pay bills,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor, opposed, carried. Okay, regional office staff report,
Okay, there's a couple of things that are happening here, other than Ebola. We have met with our database developer, and we are in the final stages of our picture behind us, which is our database with providers that will allow them to be able to look at what what recertification classes they've taken. It also allows them to look at when their cards are expiring, and it will notify them when that's happening. There's also a hospital module in there that we will be able to get all the information for physicians, and they will be able to update that information themselves. And we are also have a class offering module. So when the class comes in, it will be listed there, and we'll be able to see what classes are being offered, so that you can meet up with your credentials. We've looked at it, the database looks solid. We're just looking now for them to put the face on it and give us some of the reports. Hopefully, we'll be implementing around the first of the year. The second thing that will be of interest to a lot of the BLS crews, we've been working with naloxone at a BLS level and the Department of Health, where we are expected very shortly to get some supply of naloxone that we will be able to distribute to BLS agencies after they use what they if they have, if they're already on the program. If they're not on the program, they sign up, we should be able to give them the initial kits that they need for the number of agencies, for the number of rigs that they have in each agency, right? We haven't gotten the final contract on that, but that's what it looks like it's gonna be. So it will be a 6-month contract, so we'll be going to about June when we'll be able to do that. And we're not sure what's gonna happen after June. I guess that's the end of the fiscal year. We might get another contract after that.
It's gonna cover the BLS, first response agencies also?
Yes,
Okay.
it will cover BLS agencies, BLS FRs, and it will cover, I believe, I haven't seen the contract, so, but I believe it will also cover some of the police departments.
So will it be enough to cover each agency's 1-year shelf life? I mean, what is the quantity, and will it be a regular renewal amount for an agency?
I'm not sure on that
Okay.
yet, because I haven't seen the contract.
Gotcha.
What we have to give them is the count of number of vehicles that we have within the region, and they said that they should be able to supply us at least with the initial for each one for each vehicle.
Will it be fee-based for each agency, or will it be in exchange for what expires?
I believe the initial is free, and then will be replacement as you report the usage, or you report breakage, or whatever.
Okay,
Again, we don't have the exact details on it, because we have a contract that
and you don't know if it'll be fee-based or not?
fee-based it from whom.
Will the agencies pay you
No.
for it? Understood, okay.
No.
Bill, is it 1 per vehicle or 2 per vehicle?
Who is that? I have no idea who that is.
Sorry.
I believe it's gonna be 1 kit per vehicle.
And is it also for EASBU? EASB?
Yes, if they're state certified, yes. Right, but we have to know how many vehicles there are there.
Is
So-
each region getting
Each region has to sign up for it and has to agree to the contract, because there's obviously an inventory process, and there's record keeping, and, there's reporting and stuff like that that needs to be done with it. But that's part of, all part of the contract that will come in.
So to understand, for clarity, it's one kit per vehicle on an exchange, a breakage, or an
Or usage.
expiration. Well, an exchange meaning usage,
Okay.
breakage, or an expiration, if that is what the contract says.
Right.
With no fee to the agency.
Correct.
Rock on.
Mhm.
Cause that's a huge, I mean, for volunteer agencies,
Mhm.
this is a huge argument
Right.
for even agencies that haven't signed up for Narcan yet.
Well, part of it is to entice those agencies to sign up for it, because you have to sign up for it, you have to have a memorandum of understanding with us that says that we will do that for you if you do this for us, and part of what you have to do for us is report.
This is huge, super.
There's been a lot of stuff going on lately about HCS, and agencies have to sign up and they have to get their people in there. You have to go through a process with that, and you have to fill out the information in HCS, and you get a certification from that. You have to mail that certification to us with a copy of who your 24/7 Ebola person is, with a copy of their license that's readable, because I get them and they're just blobs, and we have no idea, we have to contact the people. You send them to us and we'll take care of them here. You send them to, I guess, the state, either, anybody that's here, and we'll process it.
And it's not just for the Ebola. Once you get onto the healthcare system and they disseminate electronic, information electronically, you will get it. And people, EMS has been asked to sign on for this for quite a while, and now the state's forcing it that, hey, you've got to sign on so we can get this information to you, and you'll have to give them, you know, an email address, a cell phone, all that. I'm the coordinator for the hospital, so that's, I know where it's coming from with that. So, yeah, it's not just for, to be notified for Ebola.
Well, I found out yesterday I'm the coordinator for the region,
Yeah, that's, yeah,
because everybody called me about it.
yeah,
and
well,
we
I
really don't
called,
know.
Lee
Congratulations,
Burns,
Bill.
and I said, well, I'll be the coordinator for Ulster County. Oh, no, your region's gotta do it. He said, all right, go call, get Bill, go to Bill.
Just a caution that goes on the commissioner's orders. If you got it electronically, it looks like there's a link there that you can use. Apparently the link either underlines something or put a period somewhere in there. So when you go to it, it's a dead link. You know, so people have been having problems getting onto it, so.
They sent out a correction to it.
Yeah, there's another page you can go to and actually get it. A lot of people banging away at that link, because it looks like an active hyperlink, and it's not taking them to the right spot.
Okay, so if you do get there and you do get the first piece filled out, and you send us the information, we'll get the second piece filled out for you. All right? The other thing, we will have, probably at our next meeting, we will have a Article 30, new CON for Watchtower coming out of Orange County, Tuxedo area. Yeah, they're building a world headquarters there, and they have applied for it. They have submitted all their paperwork. The FNCs have gone to the state, and we're expecting them back shortly. So once they come back, the Transportation Committee will finish up their review, and then they will submit it to the council. So we're working on that also. That's about it right now.
Okay. Any questions for the office?
Oh, just a little more quick thing. We have completed the lease for the new building. We will be moving to 33 Airport Center Drive, which is right down this street. You make a right about a mile down, and you go into the airport, into Stewart Airport, and there is a left-hand turn, that's Airport Center Drive. At the top of that hill is the building that we'll be in. We'll be in Suite 2. I don't remember the suite number, but we'll be in that building.
Buy your refreshments before you go up there, because there's gonna be nothing closer.
What's the target date?
We're looking to move the first week of December. The lease here is over at the end of December, and that one starts in January. We were able to talk to the landlord, the new landlord, who happens to be nicer than the old landlord, and they're gonna let us move in a month early. They give us a month on the front end of it. they're in the process now of building out an office or two for us and, finishing up the room.
The new building has a office space, but, the meeting room is not contiguous to that. There's a, large meeting room, it's a shared meeting room. So we've already sent out our request for the meeting room for all our meetings there. But, the space is much, I think it's larger than this.
The meeting room,
Yeah,
yes.
meeting room is, yeah, so it'll be much more comfortable, so, anyhow.
We will have a smaller conference room in our section, which will seat about 12 to 14 people. So we're gonna have small meetings there, but the larger meetings will have within the gym conference room.
Okay. Medical director's report?
Thank you. At the May meeting, we discussed that we were entertaining an application from the town of Wallkill Volunteer Ambulance Corps to become an ALS agency. And just as some quick background to understand where we're going with this, in 2012, 2013, as we were preparing to join the collaborative protocols, in line with the collaborative protocols, which were sort of handed to us as a done deal, we recognized that we needed to revise our policies and procedures, our medical control plan for the region to make it integrate better. And there were things that we recognized needed to be changed in the medical control plan, policies and procedures. And amongst those were those issues that we were changing was how an agency would come to us to become an ALS agency. And part of that we, in our revisions, we said that we were going to require fitness and competency and a public review, a public hearing after their application was completed. So in May, I told you we were going to be going through that. The TAG met several times in person and on the phone to review the application from the town of Wallkill. It appeared to be complete. We reviewed their fitness and competency, and we were planning to bring that to the September 8th REMAC. On September 5th, the regional office received notice from the state that we had overstepped our authority by requiring them to complete an F&C, as well as we had no authority to request them to go through a public hearing. Apparently all of that is included in their BLS application. They had successfully done that. They did not have to provide that information to us. However, what that meant was we could not bring their application to the REMAC because they withdrew it at our request because it was not going to be acceptable to the state. They did withdraw it, and they reapplied, and their application has since been reviewed once again by the TAG, and basically it's the same application, less the F&C and the public hearing requirements. They've been approved, and it's anticipated they're going to come before the next REMAC, which is November 3rd, for a vote to be accepted as an ALS agency in our region. Any other comments on that, John?
It was a long road to get there, but we got there. So, and I want to thank Dr. Stutt and the TAG members, because they did a lot of work on a lot of changes that had to go with a lot of moving parts to get that done. We really appreciate that. Anything else?
Well, I'll just go on the rest. In addition to what Bill was telling you about a nasal naloxone program for BLS and the supplies that are now going to come to the region, it's some economic benefit to us, I trust, with that. Another program has also been in place and this is a coalition between the Department of Justice Criminal Services as well as the AIDS Institute in New York to develop a program to provide naloxone on the street. They've actually been doing this for many years, where individuals could get trained primarily by the AIDS Institute until recently, and a family could get, a family member, a friend, or oneself could have naloxone prescribed to them after they went through a brief course, a training program. More recently, the state has opened this up to the police. As you may recall, back in December of 2013, the state said BLS could now carry naloxone. ALS has always had it. And follow up to that, the idea was to expand who could get it, and they expanded this to the police departments. Police departments, whether or not they're BLS first responders or just have no EMS background, police departments could train through the DCJS and become an approved provider, providing they had a physician who was an affiliated prescriber, meaning that physician had the ability to prescribe for that police department. What the region has done has become an organization that can approve affiliated providers. And Bill worked on this in the spring and early summer, and completed the application. So now the Remsco is a certified CBO.
System-based organization.
Community-based organization.
Community-based, I'm sorry.
Organization, that's it. Community-based organization. We brought that to the REMAC in September and told the physicians there that if they wish to be the prescribers for police departments in their neighborhoods, in their catchment areas, they would just need to sign on as an affiliated prescriber, and they can then start to do that. So Bill has had a couple of requests from some physicians, and I'm sure that'll grow as more police departments want more support.
And we'll solicit that
Provide
again at the
naloxone.
next REMAC meeting.
And what makes it exciting is almost, and I know Murph, there's a lot of activity down in Rockland, and I know you're part of that training there, that almost as soon as the police are given the naloxone, there are saves happening repeatedly. The narcotic epidemic is growing faster than the Ebola epidemic. And back in June, the statistics I heard was that in June of 2014, there were more narcotic interdictions in New York City than there had been in all of 2013. So we're doubling it. So this is a well-timed intervention. So any of you have contact with police departments that want to participate, Bill can provide them with a prescriber.
Bill, do we have a tally of the BLS agencies? Do you have, when they upgrade to naloxone, do you get anything? Does the region
Yes,
get anything?
yes.
Do we have a tally?
Currently 40 agencies ongoing.
Okay, good.
We're about 50% of our BLS agencies.
Okay.
Are they not all required to?
No,
No,
it's an
it's
optional
not-
program. And we're hoping that the free cost of naloxone will make that much higher.
Yeah, because the cops get, we have like 500 offices. We have most of the departments in Rockland done.
I got a list from Mark Hammer. I don't know if you deal with Mark Hammer.
Oh, yeah.
But
My buddy.
I know Clarkstown was not on that list.
Well, they were the first ones.
And Rockland County Sheriff's Department was the only one that was on the Rockland County Police Department list.
Valley, they're all done except for Spring Valley.
Okay.
Hartford and Remsco both have.
Well, I know they carry them, I just didn't,
Yeah.
I don't know why they're not on that list.
And they all did
I'll,
it through DCJS?
Yeah.
I'll email Mark and give him an update.
Yeah.
Because we were even discussing, it's funny because we had a discussion back and forth about the latest Clarkstown save market act. So
Yeah.
it would make sense. It was unusual because the BLS unit was there first and then on a Narcan agency, so the cops came and gave the patient a Narcan.
Give me keys to the ambulance.
The interesting aspect,
He did 2 bags in the local Wendy's restaurant.
an interesting part about the police administering it is, when the police arrive at the scene, they are not able to prosecute, there cannot be a criminal case if they're there to give Narcan. They can make it a criminal case if there's an unusual amount of supply there, suggesting that it was for sale and not for personal use. But otherwise, nobody has anything to fear by calling the police.
We have to touch on that in the training too. Again, if they walk in and there's bricks of it all over the place, it's a different story, but that covers the caller too.
Yep.
So in other words, if there's a caller and the user in the same room, and the cops come and there's paraphernalia and stuff around, nobody can be arrested. Again, if there's scales and bricks that are around, then it's a different story.
Changes the whole dynamic
Slightly.
of police do.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Any questions for Dr. Stuck? Okay, committee reports. David, training committee.
I would first like to introduce a colleague of mine from across the pond, Bethuel Liwa, in the back there, from Kenya. A lot of the agencies around this table have been instrumental in assisting East Africa and Bethuel's efforts with the Kenya Council of EMTs and ICT Fire and Rescue in developing EMT, paramedic, and fire training academies that have delivered a number of students and additional instructors to that area and really developed a system out there. Bethuel's been with us for about a week, shadowing us and going around to several agencies and looking at the system, and I've unfortunately dragged him to board meetings in Remax and Remsco. Apologies for that in advance, but he's with us today, so I welcome Bethuel, and I hope he's learned a lot. And thank you guys all for all of your support in helping EMS and fire around the world, really, not just in this area. Secondly, there's a CIU scheduled for November 5th and 19th at the Rockland County Fire Training Center from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., both days. And thirdly, we have in front of us, we need to vote on the Ulster County Ambulance Association. I'm going to take a few minutes to go through this so that everybody completely understands the scope and what is and the charge in front of us for the state. Ulster County Ambulance Association was a core sponsor in this region and closed for a variety of reasons. They requested a renewal, and the state required them to submit an entire new application for their core sponsorship. As a function of that, then it went to Training and Education, where Training and Ed put together a tag to review the application, make recommendation to the Training and Ed Committee to vote. That committee then sends a recommendation to this body at the Remsco, who then votes and sends a recommendation to the state. So as far as clarity of the whole process of that whole thing. The tag, Training and Ed, and this body here can only make recommendation based on the capability of the course sponsor to meet the requirements of the application, because we ourselves are a course sponsor. And so we can't consider the impact to the student pool or the course sponsors, all those kinds of issues. Those would be considered a conflict of interest, and that's something that's evaluated by the state at their level once this body makes recommendation. So the tag made recommendation to Training and Ed. There are 3 potential possible recommendations. The first 2 is approve without reservation. The second is to approve with contingencies. And the third is to disapprove or not recommend. So the recommendation by the tag to Training and Ed was to approve with contingencies. There were a total of 7 contingencies related to facility, schedule, documented entity, didactic and practical sessions, equipment, instructors, and policies, and then 3 additional recommendations, not necessarily contingencies, related to policy and procedure, registration, funding, and dress code. On that recommendation, Training and Education voted. The vote was to approve with contingencies as well. The vote was 3 to approve, 0 no votes, and 8 abstentions for fiduciary reasons. So as of today, this is in front of the Remsco to make a vote on this and take this to then a letter from this body to the state.
Okay. Question?
Is this a roll call vote?
Is this a roll call?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's, I believe this is a roll call vote.
Okay.
Use the last column on the
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Well, it's a second
Second
motion
motion.
out of the committee, so, yeah.
It can be discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is there any
It's-
discussion before we take a
it's-
vote?
It's already a seconded motion, so there can be discussion at this point,
Right.
and then there'll be a call for the vote, and then there'll be a roll call vote.
Is, there any discussion? Any questions?
I just have one question. Dot tried to talk to me earlier, who's the president of UCAA, right?
And the administrator.
And the administrator, okay. And it came up prior when, and I think it's about a year ago, when the certification was lost to UCAA and outstanding payrolls. And that has come about, and numerous people have called on this to DOT and up to the hierarchies, and it seems to be a dead end as far as we're being told it's under investigation. And there's large payrolls out that have been unpaid. And there seems about that, and
You want me to address it?
sure.
But I have gotten. You have Dot stand up for me,
Sure.
please. The old knees stand up.
Sorry, I can't see you.
In speaking with the state, with Gene Taylor, Lee Burns, the finances will be addressed, and as it's been told to me, they are working on a reimbursement of those funds for those instructors. Apparently, when things got shut down, that was a moot point until we kept working at it, and we've come to an agreement that there will be reimbursement for the instructors.
Because the tally's high, that's why I'm asking.
Well, yeah, it's a significant amount of money that needs to be reimbursed. And there was a 15-day deal that you had to have it sent in, well, that got kind of lost in the mud. And now that it's been brought to their attention, I've been told, I don't know how long it's gonna take, okay? The wheels of the state does, if anybody's ever dealt with the state, you know, it takes a little while. But that's what I've been told. I'm not letting the issue go. They're being reminded, so that's the only answer I can give you right now.
Additionally, for clarification purposes, we are not allowed to request any changes to the application or anything like that. It stands as is. We can only ask for clarification of any points and make recommendation based on the application as it stands, just for clarity's purposes.
So just to clear that up with, as far as the approval with contingencies, the contingency that somebody look at the policies, because the policies were, haphazard, to say the least.
We wouldn't be able to look at them. It would have to be at the state level. I imagine if the agency was granted the ability to be a course sponsor, they would fall under our purview for follow-up as any other agency. But as far as that goes, it would be a recommendation to the state with a contingency, and we could include that contingency.
I think it was in there, you said there was seven.
It is in there, that's correct, yeah.
Because we had looked at that, some of the stuff had been a simple find and replace of other agencies' course policies, which were fine, but they weren't cleaned up enough. There was other agencies' names in there, there was an intermediate course policy and an intermediate practical exam listed in the BLS course policy, so they were quite haphazard, is a light term, in my opinion.
That particular contingency that Mike is talking about is that the course sponsor requested to be training EMT basic and refresher and EMR.
I'm sorry, say that again, please. They requested to be.
They requested to
training.
train at the EMT basic and original and refresher, and the EMR original and refresher. But the document indicated training for the EMT intermediate and AEMT training levels and didactic standards against the old BLS standards for AEMT didactic and AEMT practical sessions. So that was the contingency that they update that particular section to what they were actually requesting to do.
just for point of clarification, so if the state doesn't make the revisions or changes, but approves the application to be approved for an AMT level? Because of what's on that application?
If
I
this is
just
a,
wonder.
if this is a contingency, I imagine the state would have to address it with the association
The
directly.
application was for, the application request was okay.
Yeah.
The course policies
Address the,
had been a find and replace of other institutions' course policies, and they obviously weren't proofread because they didn't match.
Right.
So do all these 7 contingencies have to be addressed prior to tonight, or is it something that's contingent
They-
to open up the door?
We can only make recommendation to the state based on contingencies or just complete approval or disapproval. And it's not up to us to have the agency come back with revisions or
To us.
changes to us, correct?
But they have to the state.
They would have to at the state level, correct?
Is that clarified, or are you?
No.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you give us a little bit of history as to why they, without going into detail, because I have no idea what I'm voting on.
Okay, Ulster County Ambulance Association was a core sponsor in the region. They were closed by the state with a list of statement of deficiencies. The state indicated that they hadn't received a renewal in time, and with the timing of the statement of deficiencies, they were not addressed. The Congressman's office became involved in it and convinced the state to reconsider their position. And the state said that they would reconsider the position as long as Ulster County Ambulance Association submitted a new application versus a renewal application. Dot, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And there's a change of staff. In other words, the old administrator is no longer there. There was a new administrator, myself, so that hopefully things will run smoother, up to date, and take care of all the points of interest that everybody was dealing with. I did try to correct those, contingencies, is that the word you were using?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And was told by the state, through a conversation with them, that it's been corrected. I had asked if I could submit some of that paperwork to you, and your reply was to me that it wasn't necessary at that point in time. And when I talked to Lee, and when I talked to, not Lee, Gene Taylor, everything had been changed. The wrong agency number was my fault. I inadvertently threw a piece of paper in there that was a packet and shouldn't have gone through, but I take blame for that. It went in without my knowledge. The other stuff has all been addressed.
Okay, any other questions, concerns?
So can I clarify then, what you read off as the approval with contingencies, you're clarifying has been in the interim corrected and according to the state approved, but can we go on that word and
We can only go on
What
the
you
information that we have. We don't have anything by the state, and
Okay.
it would be unfair to DOT
Right.
understood?
or to the state to take it either
Sure.
direction.
So, okay, so that is strike it from what we've heard, so we're voting on what you have read off as your report,
Correct.
okay. But the behind the scenes is what you read and
Absolutely. That's all.
whatnot, okay.
That information was present for the tag, for training and ed. DOT was present for all of those and agreed that those were all of the conditions and situations.
And as far as the turnover and administration and everything, we can vote based on that information also?
All I can say is the information in the packet was complete to that point.
Okay. It's hard not knowing anything. Okay.
Okay, Any other questions? Roll call?
Can we abstain if we're not comfortable voting?
If you're not comfortable voting, you can abstain, but you have to have a reason for abstaining.
Okay.
Insufficient information.
Okay.
Ready?
And I would like to, no,
I'm sorry,
go ahead,
All right.
never mind.
Mike Witkowski?
Do I actually vote or? who
Oh,
listens to
I
it?
am,
No.
that's the first on the list. so-
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Okay.
No, I don't vote unless
All
it's,
right, Dave Violante,
And I
abstain.
have to abstain for the,
Joan Siebert,
Yes.
Jennifer Manzi,
I'm gonna abstain, just insufficient information, I don't know enough of the situation.
Joanne Cheney,
Yes.
Ben Cox,
Yes.
Andy Lamarca,
Abstain, conflict.
Kelly Malkin,
Abstain, not enough information.
Israel Knoploch,
Yes.
Bob Cuomo,
Yes.
David Jacobson,
Yes.
Mike Murphy,
No.
Albie Bachman,
Abstain, confused.
Greg Tavermina,
Abstain for more information.
Heidi Stack,
Abstain for more information.
wait a minute. So,
Stay out. Stay out.
I need clarification on, how many from a county can vote? Like Sullivan's got,
All the delegates.
all
All the
will
Right.
vote. If there's a delegate missing, then the first alternate votes. If
okay,
there's two delegates, the first two alternates vote.
alright, so in this case, Sullivan's got, two delegates and two alternates, so the first alternate had the vote, so Goldsmith then doesn't get a vote, okay. Myself, abstain. Kelly Nelson,
I have to abstain, I have a fiduciary interest.
In Dutchess County, can you call Mary Ann Baker, cause she came in after, since you called roll,
yeah, but
or do you have a full?
that's a full, yeah, how many votes does Duchess get? I've got 4 that voted for Duchess, not counting you.
They get six.
That's 6.
They get
We
6
get
votes?
6.
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay, so then, who came in, Mary Ann Baker? That changed that. Mary Ann?
I'm gonna abstain on the information.
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 4. One against. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Abstain.
We have, we have Ron Levy and Neil showed up. Tom Rockland, they're sitting back there.
Can you just have them stand and just so they can be recognized?
All right,
Those who came in late, Ron, who was it?
Ron Levy
Ron
and
Levy.
Neil.
And Neil, can you just stand up so we know, and kind
Okay,
of, they
officially
came in
present.
after, okay?
After the roll call vote, yes.
and Neil?
And Jennifer came in after the roll call?
And so did Mary Ann Baker.
Yes, there was 4.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I've got those two, but I don't have those. So then, Rockland County, looks like they get 1, 2, 3, 4,
They get six.
5. All right, well, this says only got 5, but okay, so then
One of
both of them can vote. Neil?
What was that?
Abstain.
Abstain?
And Ron? Alright, so that changes that to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 6 for, 1 no, 12 abstentions.
And we just send the results to the state, correct?
Well, that's then an affirmative that it gets sent to the state with the contingencies as listed by training and education.
Okay. Anything else?
The only thing I would suggest then for those individuals who don't have enough information is perhaps if you want to get more information that you elect to find it.
Has to be a wage.
I mean, is there a more adequate report that we can read from the training and ed?
Not, I mean, this is what it is,
Okay.
yeah.
Andy, go ahead.
Well, I think that the thing that probably frustrates people is that the previous sponsorship is kind of sealed. Nothing to do with that action is looking at this new application. But yet, the application has so many contingencies we're not used to dealing with. That have to be decided by the state. It kind of is, I understand, a difficult position. So my suggestion is maybe to accompany the vote to the state with a letter that states that many were unable to reach a decision, I believe, because they felt they did not have enough information to intelligently vote.
I'll support that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think just
Yeah.
the state gotta know that it's, just because that you wanna cast your vote intelligently, and if you can't because you don't feel you have the information, we would hope the state can alleviate the, concern to those abstentions. And those of us with fiduciary issues, that's a
Right,
different
that's-
story.
I mean, is that something that, like, we can make a motion that the,
We can just send that.
We
Yeah,
can always
just
make a
send it.
motion to send a notation,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it is moved on to the state, so it's not being held.
And again, it is a recommendation by this committee, this body.
It's not actually being voted one way or the other by this body.
Correct. It gives this body the ability to make a recommendation.
Okay. Anything else on training?
You've done enough, David.
Now.
No more for you.
Poppers? What?
No soup.
The BLS collaborative protocol rollout has been ongoing through the counties. If you haven't received one and you want more information, please contact this body so that we can get a doc out to you and more information out to you. Just remember again that agencies and providers fall under the collaborative protocols under the BLS sections, and in the near future, some of the components of those sections will be on BLS providers, and those are those 5 areas of the BLS Narcan, I'm going to have to remember these, the albuterol, epinephrine, what am I missing? Glucometry, and AED. So all those components will end up being incumbent on BLS providers. At some point in the future, and the region has been, the REMAC has been very open to providing as much assistance and help as possible on training and education and such.
The only thing I'd like to add is just I think that we're starting to see, because these are kept elective, like the use of the Narcan by BLS units, and it's within your right to decide to accept it or not. But I think what you have to start looking at is that the standard of care around you has increased, and you will now be below this prevailing standard of care, which may or may not mean anything to some people, but in legal circles, that means a lot. Right?
To back that up, by example, is some agencies have indicated that they will treat asthma patients with epinephrine because it's in the protocols without first giving a required nebulizer because they don't want to carry the nebulizer for cost. And and the REMAC, that is a bad idea.
It can't be more expensive than an Epi, since EpiPens are now $200 a piece.
Yeah. So the REMAC has taken the perspective of clinical judgment and clinical care into account as well. I do suggest that agencies talk to their local hospitals and pharmacies to see if they could collaborate on carrying some stock in their formulary and come up with an agreement with the hospital where they may end up being able to purchase this equipment at a lower cost because of volume. So that may be helpful as well. Anything else, Mike?
I'm just waiting for you to finish that, Mike. We're good.
Don't worry, Dave, we're not going anywhere tonight.
Yeah.
Dr. Stead, any more on REMAC?
He said with a toothy grin.
Transportation.
Yeah, they have nothing
just-
outstanding at this point in time. They are reviewing the watchtower, 30 action.
Public information and education, Desiree's not here. Policies and procedure.
We're beginning a review of all Remsco policies and procedures to bring them up into the electronic age, as opposed to having to publish things in the New York Times and that type of thing. Get away from the paper, get electronic, and San Francisco's up 1-0, top of the first.
Legislative and bylaws, Albie?
Before I speak,
Drum roll.
I haven't been approved to do it.
That is true. That is
I'm
under
not
new
saying
business.
And there is and Albie is a legal eagle, you know.
Would you like to address that, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman?
well then I will move that I will jump to new business real quick to approve the changes on that. Albie Bachman has agreed to chair the Legislative and Bylaw Committee. Can I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Let's make
May
it
I
for
now
life.
speak?
Let's make it for life. Let's make it for life, good.
We have one bylaw addition, but before I do that, I just want to bring to your attention two bills that we shall follow over the next, I'd say, good year. Bill number A as in Albie, A644A
It's already
of
got this time.
2013. Also in the Senate as Senate Bill number S6254A. That if we are summoned to a building that is under construction and a permit was not properly issued, and a firefighter, first responder, EMT, goes into the building and is injured, that the construction company that is in contract for that construction site can and will be held in reckless endangerment in the first and or second degree. So that's protection for us. We will be watching that. The next bill to watch is in the Assembly. It is Bill number A, as in Albie 4457 of 2013, that it authorizes the Commissioner of Health to extend the certification of emergency medical technicians and first responders who cannot recertify due to illness. So that protects us as well. Those are two things that I'll be following for you over the next year. Now, on the bill that strike, for the addition to the bylaws, this is the first time, so it's going to be read. Presently, under Section 1, Executive Committee, this is a proposed bylaw addition to Article 4. Present, it says, the Executive Committee shall consist of the following members. 1, the elected council officers. 2, chairpersons of all standing committees. 3, the council's delegate to the New York State EMS Council. And 4, each county council should have representation on the executive committee. This addition reads as follows. This will be a 5th contingency of the executive committee section. We hereby add the departing council president for a period of 1 year. Respectfully submitted. I will hand this to the chair when I'm done. Does that address what we discussed?
It does address what we discussed, but,
But, oh, here we go. I took the job and
no, you're doing a great job. But I think what, one of the things that we wanna do is get the medical director as part of the executive committee, which we were under, there was some assumption that that existed already, but apparently it's not, cause I
I don't
know you
remember
would have
that.
done that, so.
Okay, with that proviso, I'll add that as a sixth, that the medical director shall serve on the executive committee. With that, it is hereby read.
That's
Victor's
down.
shoes are very difficult to fill. Oh, give me a break.
Well done, Ed.
So that's 30 days now, or the next council meeting, or we
Yeah.
vote on it?
Yeah, I'll just, it's quick.
I don't know.
The bylaws may be amended at any regular meeting of the council by 2/3 vote of the members present. Voting shall, and vote, provided,
What?
I know. it's
Voting
weird.
shall what?
No, by members present.
Uh-huh.
And voting, provided that the proposed amendments have been submitted in writing to the secretary and read at the previous meeting. So they have been read at the previous meeting, they will be provided to the secretary. A copy of the proposed amendment shall be provided to each member at least 10 days prior to the meeting and to which it's supposed to be voted upon. So it will be voted upon at the next meeting.
And with your permission, Mr. President, I will retype that addition of the medical control officer and submit it to the executive director, where he can submit it 10 days before the next meeting.
So done. Thank you very much, sir.
It'll be the medical director, though. Medical director.
Medical director.
Okay. Any questions for the legislative and bylaw committee?
I just wanted to add, and I don't wanna take up too much time since you already have surpassed President Cuomo's record times.
I just want to say, since I've taken over the presidency of this organization, it's been quite an interesting ride that President Cuomo did not tell me was anywhere near the fun that it has been.
You see, I had this little crystal ball that would tell me when it was time to step in.
Did you find the stuff he hid in the drawer too that
Not
he didn't
yet.
get to yet?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike.
Just briefly, the state council and the CMAC ratified a position paper from the Mobile Integrated Healthcare TAG, which basically recommends, it's an information paper for legislators to recommend Article 30 changes. The Article 30 changes, to keep it very simplistic, are to add the term out of hospital in conjunction with emergency, because right now, our actions in regulation and in law are only relevant to an emergency as opposed to a non-emergency. So there was verbiage that was placed in the white paper to include out of hospital. What that, and then subsequently, the CMAC and SEMSCO representatives have been told to go out to their individual legislators and seek them out. And also the associations, which are all in line with this, Onion, NICEFERA, FASNY, State Fire Chiefs, districts, etc. So if you happen to get a question from maybe one of your legislators saying about this, the short version is that there's some very fine verbiage that has to be changed in Article 30 to include the term out of hospital. And what that would do, that would enable mobile integrated healthcare, which is where, you know, we're probably gonna be going in the next century, to be enabled, and that's the short version.
Is it also non-emergency in the verbiage?
It's
Out of
actually, there's a mix of emergency and then non-emergency and out of hospital, so with that, so basically what it deals with the, let's say an EMT now, would be able to go, if a patient got discharged, an EMT could go the next day and assess the patient and check for safety issues, and did they get their prescriptions filled, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, regulatory wise, that can't be done to the fine point of the law. So that's what that is.
So, Mike, so that addresses the regulatory aspects. What about the reimbursement aspects? Which are certainly.
That'll be the following century.
We're not here for that section.
There's the reimbursement aspects, nobody has an answer to. There has been money that has been coming out of HHS for pilot programs, like Remsco in Oklahoma and Texas, they've had some pilot programs. There are also some hospitals that are engaging with their local EMS providers to prevent readmissions. And the hospitals are actually, because they're paying less penalties, then are distributing that to the EMS agencies that are doing that work for them. We haven't dealt with, right now, you go pick up the patient and you take them to the hospital, you bill and get reimbursed, the ER bills and get reimbursed. Now, supposing the ambulance goes and gets assessed, they don't need an ER, they're gonna go to an alternative destination, a doc in a box, for lack of a better term, or whatever. That reimbursement formula has not been, but again, with the way ACA is, fee for service may be gone anyway, so who knows?
Any questions? State, I guess, was there anything else from state council?
Oh, we're on that?
We're on there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just happened to drop right into
I was
that.
trying to speed you along,
Yeah, I know. Waiting on you.
I'm looking at him, he's going like this, so.
There are a number of things from state council, though.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, again,
Jim's
in
not
no
here,
particular order, obviously, CPAP for the BLS provider will be the next thing that'll transition here as I won't say elective, use of the term, kind of like we just did with Narcan, but with a very small study done upstate, but yet still positive findings that CPAP can be BLS skill and can be beneficial. We expect to see that. The issue of blood being run during transfers for paramedic services was supposed to be delivered already. It would probably allow us to transport patients with blood already running, but not to initiate, the blood transfusion. There was some talk, as somebody mentioned, I think, Joanne, about the cost of the EpiPens. There's still some consideration of, allowing perhaps EMT with special training to actually draw epinephrine and administer. So, but that is just in discussion. And the other big thing with the cautions, I think, at even the Training and Education Committee at the state, is about the CME program, recertifications and abuses in that system. Again, some people are not really taking the appropriate CME. Some are not documented properly. Some have had their certificates, denied. And there are currently investigations in our region of fraudulent CME, being put in. So anybody that's involved in the CME program, report to the wise. Make sure it's, I's are dotted, T's are crossed. They were looking at the possibility of having another level of instructor that would handle the CME programs, but pretty much that was shot down at committee. That it should be the responsibility of a CIC, and that CIC should be working with the agency, and it should not be random CICs signing off on people's sheets as they finish the CME somewhere. That's all I had.
Just interject. The collaborative protocols have presented to the CMAC at the last meeting with a new group of protocols. The basic change in the protocol is to eliminate the I and add the AEMT in there. It also makes naloxone for a basic. It changed some of the It changed the glucose level to 60 on all of the protocols that were outstanding. Nitrous oxide was added to our standard protocol. What is it? Norepinephrine was added as a vasopressor, and Hopridol was added as a physician option.
Say it again.
Paisley ties, long wait will come back.
Haloperidol,
For sedation?
yes. And they changed the return to spontaneous circulation protocols to remove chill.
Chill. Ironically, after all the hoopla, they found it could be detrimental.
Right.
You know, and so, if anybody wants to buy any small igloo coolers, there's probably a lot of people that are probably going to make them available to you.
And the only other thing that was changed was ketamine was added to MFI agencies as an option. Those protocols were accepted for Remo. They will be, as Remo's protocols, they will be presented to RMAC next week as protocols from the Hudson Valley. They'll be voted on there, and then it'll just be a matter of a letter being sent to the state saying that we'll be operating under these protocols.
And that's as of January.
That would be as of January 1st, yes. Now, from what I understand, the 2016, which they are working on already, will be a lot more elaborate than that. The big push here was to get rid of the I and the A, to make sure that the A was done correctly.
And the T was crossed and I was done.
Okay,
Bill, sorry,
Yes.
anything on King's Airway? Bills?
I'm sorry.
No.
Say that again, Neil?
No discussion, we know.
Anything on King's Airway?
No.
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 Oh, let me add a comment from medical standards. As you know, backboards are
Oh, good Lord.
going to be going by the wayside. The comment made at medical standards, and we'll put this in the record, was they feel that anybody who does a standing takedown should be convicted of a misdemeanor.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Standing takedowns,
Well, yeah, but has anybody passed that on?
No, because what's happening is that it is being dealt with on medical standards and on CMAC to discuss,
And training that.
and training, to discuss what many aspects of the country have already enveloped based on the current literature and the current science. So when you do see it, and you do see discussion of it, it's basically the short version is, and again, until a protocol comes down, consensus from the state, there are organizations throughout the country, there are systems that have removed their backboards from their ambulances because they actually are detrimental to the patient. And placing a patient on a rigid collar and on a mattress stretcher is a perfectly acceptable way of immobilizing them. This is coming from American College of Emergency Physicians, American College of Surgeons, etc. So they're trying to push that, but as anything in life, there's always pushback and there's difficulty, in particular more in New York State than other areas. But if you see this coming down the pipe, don't be surprised, and if you wanna expand your horizons, take a look at some of the literature that's out there, because basically it's saying that backboards are normal.
They did put in a letter of recommendation that no
Yeah.
service be held deficient if they do not immobilize someone on a backboard. Yeah, so, and at which time, what is the physician's name from New York City?
No, he's from Buffalo.
Well, the one that objected to the fact, then just please tell the nurses to stop yelling at us when we come
Oh,
in
yeah, that was-
without the backboard. So it is something that was discussed for years. When it came out of committee, it was recommended almost the same thing. It's back here, and it hopefully doesn't get shoved back in committee.
Well, the problem was that what was a spinal immobilization tag and a spinal immobilization protocol to try and make less people be immobilized, actually more people are being immobilized by it. number one, and number two, the whole concept of a mobilization is being, you know, drastically looked at, so. Don't be surprised,
Yeah,
but
there-
that was a comical comment, you know, that, you know, about the standing takedown, which.
But they're
may not
classified,
create to a felony.
they want the backboard classified as a transportation device,
Yes.
not a mobilization device.
Extrication and transportation device, not an immobilization
Yes.
device.
So those of you that still have the scoop stretcher in your closet, you can bring it back out, okay?
And probably don't throw the backboards away, 'cause I'm sure it'll roll around again. Yeah.
When weather effect goes back out.
Okay, anything else from state council? Any old business, tag mutual aid?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay, expired delegates and alternates, I have a letter from Orange County,
I was-
and reappointing Andy Lamarca. Can I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Who said that?
Could we be?
Not Andy Lamarca.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, from Dutchess County,
So, she either said Sullivan or Superman. She did this.
You're Superman,
She did
Sullivan.
this. Oh.
Sullivan County expired people.
okay, well, I'm in Dutchess County right now with you.
I'm telling Bill to make sure that you say that Sullivan County, I asked Greg for a letter.
Okay, Sullivan County, can we please get a letter of your expired delegates?
Yes, we will
Thank you.
take care of that.
Karen's
Okay,
out.
Dutchess County. Reappointing Dave Violante, Marion Baker, Mike Witkowski, Jennifer Manzi, and Tim Murphy as delegates. Dee Sagendorf, Michael Murphy, and Joan Siebert as alternates.
Mike- Mike,
Well,
you-
we said it as a delegate.
I think,
So,
is there a second Michael Murphy? 'Cause
Yes, there is a second Michael
Oh.
Murphy.
I thought you were trading in the old season.
Welcome to Dutchess.
Great restaurants.
Because you told me I expired in
Wait,
six,
do we have 6
we have
delegates?
6 delegates.
And, oh, no,
And
I know the
six
correction.
six is free, right? Or is it five?
Joan, Joan is the delegate, we have an absent alternate.
I think-
That was the
Right.
error, sorry. Barry and I were trying to figure this out, and I was like, wait, what? Got it,
Hold everything.
sorry.
Okay.
Is this valid? Can I
Yep.
write?
Yep.
Rock on.
Just a suggestion that we do a review of
Sorry.
the changes to the delegate list, because I know we did make initial
We're gonna-
changes, but it seems like we might be a little bit off, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll get this and then we'll go through the delegate list and make sure. Okay, so,
That's now correct.
okay, so now we're going,
Joan
is
is
now an
actually a
actual delegate.
delegate, she's a delegate.
So
We
adding
have
this
some-
now,
Oh,
Dutchess
wait,
County,
wait. Sorry.
just destroy everything that we upset up front.
Can only take one of you at a time.
Sorry.
Dutchess County, the new delegate list is Dave Violante, Marianne Baker, Mike Witkowski, Jennifer Manzi, Tim Murphy, and Joan Siebert,
Correct.
with alternates Dee Sagendorf and Michael Murphy,
And an absent,
and one absent open
yes.
position. Okay, can I have a motion?
Motion.
Can I have a second? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is that all I have for delegates?
200% up to date.
Kim has requested to continue as the Semsco representative and chairman of the Transportation Committee. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Greg has requested to stay as the chairman of Policies and Procedures. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. New business, the only thing I have right now is the dates for the next council meetings for 2015. Wednesday, February 18th. Wednesday, May 13th. Wednesday, September 9th. Wednesday, December 16th. All meetings will start at 7 PM. They will be at the new building. These dates we went through and confirmed that they were outside of the holidays, taking into account all the different things that were going on. So, including EMS week. So we maneuvered around. So that's why you'll see it won't be the 3rd, it may be the 2nd. So just be aware these are the dates.
It just might be a little bit harder for us to change a date, so make sure that everybody's comfortable with it. If they need a change or have a reason for it, they should bring it up very shortly, because they have to go into the new room so that we do have the larger room for those times. Otherwise, we'll be very,
Very, very cramped. So, okay, any other new business?
Is our meeting in December still the same date?
Yes, this
Yeah,
December.
this December will be the same, yeah. But it will be at the new location,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 5 and 3. Cleanings are 5, alternates are 3. I just looked it up.
Okay. Do we need to correct anything?
I don't know. I don't have any paper with that on there.
Five and 3, and what you had here originally. 5 and 3 than what you had originally. So. Okay, we'll look at Dutchess County, we'll have to adjust Dutchess County. I'll give it back to you. So, okay, any other new business?
I know this is really out of order as far as business is concerned, and I'm not sure if I'm able to ask this, but, I was wondering if we could have a moment of silence for Dan Brady, the paramedic who died in Rockland.
Certainly. Certainly do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other new business?
Motion for adjournment.
Second noting it's 8:43.
So I have a motion and a second.
Wait, Mike, can you vote for 2 counties or just one?
All in favor? Opposed?